What if I told you the world's most loyal, hardworking, and heart-centered workforce doesn't wear suits, they wear sacrifice? From nursing homes in New York to oil rigs in Saudi Arabia, from the skyscrapers of Singapore to classrooms in Japan, Filipinos are quietly holding up economies that aren't even their own. But why are they leaving home in record numbers? And what don't most countries want you to know about how much they rely on Filipino labor? In this video, we'll uncover the untold stories, shocking stats, and emotional truths behind the global rise of the Filipino workforce, and the powerful impact they're making in places you'd never expect. Cracking into our top 10, it's Japan. Land of cherry blossoms, intricate culture, and a rapidly accelerating demographic crisis. For years, Japan has been grappling with a double whammy, a famously aging population and a stubbornly shrinking workforce. It's a demographic time bomb that threatens to cripple their social services and economic productivity. In the past, despite these looming challenges, tight immigration rules and formidable language barriers made it incredibly difficult for Filipinos, particularly those skilled in caregiving, to enter the Japanese workforce. Imagine needing an army of caregivers for your aging parents, but the only people perfectly suited for the job face a bureaucratic obstacle course just to get through the door. It was a classic case of supply and demand being completely out of sync, with highly capable Filipino professionals stuck outside, and desperate Japanese families struggling within. The impact of this demographic reality, exacerbated by a lack of accessible foreign labor, has been profound. Japan's elder care facilities found themselves perpetually understaffed, leading to burnout among existing workers and reduced quality of care for the elderly. Hospitals struggled to find enough nurses and support staff. Beyond healthcare, industries across the board faced labor shortages, from manufacturing to service sectors, leading to delayed projects, decreased productivity, and even businesses shutting down. The social fabric itself began to fray as younger Japanese generations were increasingly burdened with caring for their elders, impacting their own career progression and family planning. The silent strength of the Filipino workforce, particularly their compassionate nature in caregiving and their meticulousness in technical roles, became a deeply felt absence. Japan, a nation that prides itself on efficiency, was suddenly facing a very inefficient crisis. But now, with the demographic clock ticking louder than ever, Japan is making a monumental pivot. They are actively opening special work programs and launching training initiatives tailored specifically for Filipinos. We're talking streamlined visa processes, simpler requirements for caregiver and technical intern programs, and a clear message: we need you. It's like watching a famously stubborn institution finally admit it needs outside help. Filipinos are not just being welcomed, they are being courted. They are admired for their deeply ingrained respectfulness, a quality that perfectly aligns with Japanese cultural values, and their legendary work ethic. While Japan maintains its high standards, they've clearly concluded that when they truly need help, especially help delivered with compassion and a diligent spirit, Filipinos are the answer. This isn't just about filling quotas, it's about finding a cultural and professional fit that can literally help sustain their aging society. Japan may be strict, but when they need help and want Filipinos back, they make it happen. At number 9, we head to Qatar, a nation that soared onto the global stage with its hosting of the 2022 World Cup. But years before the dazzling stadiums and international fanfare, Qatar enacted labor reforms and stricter migration policies that, while ostensibly aimed at improving worker conditions, ironically led to mass departures of foreign workers, including thousands of Filipinos. Imagine a grand construction project, suddenly losing a significant portion of its most reliable builders overnight. The intention might have been good, to curb abuses and streamline systems, but the execution, coupled with the existing complex kafala sponsorship system, had unintended consequences. For many Filipinos, it meant an uncertain future, stricter controls, or even premature termination of contracts, forcing them to leave a place they had called home for years. Trust, painstakingly built over decades of contribution, was suddenly fractured. The results of these mass departures backfired spectacularly, and industries across Qatar couldn't keep up. The construction sector, already under immense pressure to deliver World Cup infrastructure on time and on budget, found itself critically short-handed. Hospitality, healthcare, and service industries, all sectors where Filipinos had played a foundational role, experienced severe operational challenges. Imagine a 5-star hotel scrambling to find enough skilled staff to cater to millions of World Cup visitors, only to realize their most experienced people had left. The 2022 World Cup, while a monumental success in terms of spectacle, also inadvertently exposed significant weaknesses in Qatar's labor system. The global scrutiny shone a harsh light on the very issues that had prompted some Filipinos to leave. It became clear that Qatar's ambitious development plans, its very ability to function as a modern global hub, relied far more heavily on its foreign workforce, particularly its Filipino component, than anyone cared to admit. And now, Qatar is quietly, diligently, working to repair its international image and, crucially, to re-attract Filipino talent. It's a strategic move, offering not just jobs, but better contracts, demonstrably safer working conditions, and more stable employment. They're trying to prove they've learned their lessons, especially in the wake of international criticism during the World Cup build-up. There's a concerted effort to move beyond the old kafala system and create a more equitable environment. They're especially targeting skilled trades and medical workers, recognizing the unparalleled professionalism and dedication Filipinos bring to these critical sectors. Filipinos are once again viewed as a crucial, indispensable part of Qatar's workforce, not just expendable labor, but valuable human capital. It's a humbling admission for a nation with such grand ambitions, recognizing that the human element, particularly the Filipino one, is absolutely vital to their future success. Taking the number 8 spot is Bahrain, a Gulf nation known for its more liberal policies, but even it wasn't immune to a bout of policy short-sightedness. At one point, the government made a concerted effort to nationalize its workforce, cutting back on the number of expatriates across various sectors. The goal was admirable, to create more opportunities for local citizens. However, the execution was clumsy, leading to many Filipinos, some of whom had spent years building careers and lives in Bahrain, abruptly losing their long-term roles. Imagine being told, after years of loyal service, that your job is simply gone, not because of performance, but because of a policy shift. It created immense uncertainty and forced countless skilled professionals to pack up and leave a country they had grown to call a second home, often taking their expertise and economic contributions with them. The labor shortage that followed was immediate and painfully difficult to ignore, especially in critical sectors like healthcare, engineering, and even hospitality. Bahrain's hospitals and clinics, which relied heavily on Filipino nurses and medical technicians, suddenly found themselves stretched thin, compromising patient care. Engineering projects, crucial for the nation's development, experienced delays and cost overruns as experienced Filipino engineers and technicians became scarce. The local workforce, while growing, simply couldn't fill the void fast enough, nor did they always possess the same specialized skills or practical experience. It was like swapping out the specialized gears in a complex machine for less compatible parts. The machine still runs, but not nearly as smoothly or efficiently. Bahrain quickly realized that while nationalization was important, it couldn't come at the expense of a functional, skilled workforce that had taken years to cultivate. And so, Bahrain is now doing a strategic about-face, easing restrictions and opening doors once again for qualified Filipino workers. Recent reforms have been implemented to make hiring processes easier, more transparent, and more appealing to international talent. They're actively streamlining visa applications and offering clearer pathways to long-term employment. Interestingly, many companies within Bahrain are now openly stating their preference for hiring Filipinos, citing their unparalleled experience, positive attitude, and adaptability. It's a public endorsement that speaks volumes. It's clear that Bahrain values their contributions more now than ever before, having learned the hard way that a vibrant economy requires a diverse and skilled workforce, one that includes the very professionals they once sought to limit. They're not just offering jobs, they're offering a renewed sense of stability and recognition for the value Filipinos bring. Heading to number 7, it's South Korea. Land of K-pop, cutting-edge tech, and a surprisingly quiet period for Filipino workers, at least for a while. In past years, fewer Filipinos were being hired due to a combination of stricter policy limits and more stringent visa rules. It wasn't an aggressive expulsion, but rather a deliberate slowdown in recruitment, almost as if South Korea was trying to manage its foreign labor intake more tightly. Imagine a highly efficient assembly line, where suddenly, a vital component becomes harder to acquire. This meant fewer opportunities for Filipinos seeking to contribute their skills in South Korea's burgeoning industries and its increasingly critical caregiving sector. For many, it represented a missed opportunity, a closed door to a nation that had otherwise garnered global admiration. But guess what's booming faster than a K-drama binge watch? Demand in caregiving and manufacturing. South Korea, like Japan, faces an aging demographic and a dwindling local workforce willing to take on demanding roles in factories or provide elder care. The policy limits created immediate labor gaps, leaving businesses struggling to meet production quotas and families desperate for reliable, compassionate caregivers. Small and medium-sized businesses, the backbone of South Korea's economy, felt the pinch most acutely. They needed adaptable, hard-working individuals who could quickly integrate into their demanding work environments. The absence of Filipinos, known for their adaptability and meticulousness, especially in precise manufacturing processes and their inherent warmth in caregiving, became a noticeable strain. It became clear that while the Hallyu wave was conquering the world, the actual industry supporting the nation needed more than just cultural exports. They needed human capital. And so, recognizing the urgent need, South Korea has started to expand its worker programs and introduce new visa categories. And guess who's back in high demand? Filipinos. They've specifically introduced a special employment system designed to help small businesses and farms bring in foreign workers, directly targeting the labor shortages. It's a pragmatic move, driven by economic necessity, but it also comes with a growing appreciation for Filipino workers. Filipinos are widely praised for being respectful, hardworking, and incredibly adaptable, qualities that resonate deeply within Korean culture. Furthermore, the government is increasing language support programs, making the transition even smoother. South Korea is preparing to welcome a significant influx of Filipino workers in the coming years, not just to fill immediate gaps, but as a long-term strategy for their demographic challenges. They've realized that while they can lead in technology and entertainment, they also need the human touch and dedicated labor that Filipinos consistently provide. Coming in hot at number 6, it's the United States. During the brutal early days of the pandemic, when hospitals were overwhelmed and nurses were quite literally on the front lines, many Filipino healthcare workers were hailed as heroes, risking their lives every single day. They were applauded, celebrated, even featured in heartwarming news stories. But then, almost immediately after, many were quietly pushed out, caught in the relentless gears of tough immigration rules and policy shifts. Imagine being told you're essential one day, only to find yourself facing deportation threats or visa expirations the next. It was a jarring, almost cruel contradiction for thousands of dedicated professionals who had sacrificed so much. The promise of the American dream seemed to evaporate, leaving them in limbo or forcing a painful return home, despite their proven, vital contributions. And then, the healthcare system began to buckle. The initial surge of COVID-19, followed by persistent staff shortages and burnout, pushed an already strained system to the brink of collapse. The US had a collective aha moment, realizing just how absolutely vital Filipino healthcare professionals truly are. They are the backbone of countless hospitals and care facilities, renowned globally for their expertise, resilience, and compassionate bedside manner. Losing them meant critical staff shortages in emergency rooms, ICUs, and nursing homes across multiple states. Patient care suffered, wait times exploded, and the remaining staff faced unprecedented levels of stress. It was like building a magnificent house, only to realize you mistakenly removed the main supporting beams. Everything started to sag and creak ominously. The economic impact was also significant, as healthcare facilities struggled to remain operational and provide adequate services. Today, the demand for Filipino nurses, caregivers, and skilled healthcare professionals in the U.S. is surging to unprecedented levels. Hospitals in multiple states are practically launching global hiring campaigns, with the Philippines at the top of their target list. Visa pathways, once slow and convoluted, are slowly painstakingly improving in response to this overwhelming need. U.S. officials, from state governors to federal health agencies, have publicly acknowledged the severe shortage of trained medical staff, openly admitting that Filipinos are at the absolute top of their list for recruitment. For many, this isn't just about filling jobs, it's about rebuilding trust and rectifying past mistakes. They're offering incentives, streamlined processes, and the promise of a more stable future. The U.S. learned the hard way that when you're facing a crisis, you don't just need hands, you need the experienced, dedicated, and compassionate hands that Filipinos provide. Just outside the top 4, at number 5, we have Canada. For years, Canada heavily relied on Filipino caregivers and service workers, seeing them as the ideal solution to their growing need for elder care and domestic support. They built lives, integrated into communities, and became indispensable. But then, a series of immigration program delays and policy freezes brought everything to a grinding halt. Imagine being a caregiver, tirelessly supporting a Canadian family for years, only to face endless waits for permanent residency or a sudden policy change that threatens your very ability to stay. Many were caught in bureaucratic limbo, unable to secure their futures, leading to immense frustration and ultimately, forcing countless dedicated individuals to return home. It was a mass exodus of compassion and commitment, leaving a gaping void in its wake. The consequences were swift and severe, especially with Canada's rapidly aging population. Homes that had depended on Filipino caregivers for years suddenly found themselves without essential support. Elderly individuals, many with complex needs, were left vulnerable. Families struggled to fill these roles, often turning to costly and less reliable alternatives, or worse, having to scale back their own careers to provide full-time care. The social and economic fabric began to fray, as delays in care for seniors put pressure on hospitals and other social services. It was like Canada had a meticulously built, highly efficient caregiving machine, and then suddenly pulled the plug on its primary power source. The Canadian government quickly realized that the long-term commitment and unique cultural fit of Filipino workers, their ability to integrate seamlessly and genuinely into Canadian homes, were not just convenient, but absolutely critical for their societal well-being and future demographic stability. And so, Canada is not just trying to fix things, they're actively sprinting to correct their past missteps. With labor gaps growing wider than the vast Canadian wilderness, the government is dramatically speeding up immigration applications and rolling out new, more appealing pathways for permanent residency. Filipinos are now not just a priority, they are arguably the top priority for their caregiving pilot programs. They are actively promoting these revised programs, emphasizing a quicker, more humane process. The message is clear: we value you, we need you, and we won't mess this up again. Canada is moving with unprecedented speed, having learned the harsh lesson that losing such a dedicated and culturally harmonious workforce is a mistake they simply cannot afford to repeat. This time, they are determined to ensure that the vital care and support Filipinos provide are secured for the long term, making sure that their commitment is met with Canada's unwavering welcome. Entering the top 4, it's Italy. For decades, Filipinos were the silent guardians of countless Italian families, working tirelessly as caregivers, nannies, and household helpers. They were the gentle hands caring for nanas and nanos, the trusted figures looking after children, and the meticulous organizers of homes. They became integral, almost invisible, members of the Italian family structure. But then, after economic challenges swept through Europe, Italy implemented austerity measures, and in a wave of layoffs, many Filipinos found themselves abruptly let go, often with little to no support. Imagine dedicating years of your life to a family, only to be told one day that your services are no longer needed due to budget cuts, leaving you adrift in a foreign land. It was a heartbreaking moment for both sides, a tearing of deep personal bonds cultivated over years. The immediate impact of this mass dismissal was a quiet domestic crisis that rippled through Italian society. Italy, like many European nations, boasts a rapidly aging population, and the demand for elder care is immense. When Filipino caregivers were suddenly absent, Italian families, especially those with working adults, found themselves in an impossible bind. Who would care for their frail parents? Who would manage their households? The local workforce simply wasn't large enough or willing enough to fill these demanding roles at a comparable level of dedication and cost-effectiveness. The caregiving crisis became a real and pressing issue, leading to immense stress on families and inevitably, on the overstretched public healthcare system. It became painfully clear that the warmth, efficiency, and tireless commitment of Filipino domestic workers were not luxuries but fundamental pillars of modern Italian family life. And so, as Italy grapples with its deepening caregiving crisis, the country is, quite predictably, turning back to the Filipino community. It's an act of necessity, but also one of profound recognition. They're actively offering new jobs, more secure contracts, and crucially, better protections to ensure fair treatment. The deep Catholic cultural ties between Italy and the Philippines have always made integration easier, fostering a natural sense of empathy and understanding. Now, Italian families themselves, having experienced the immense void left by the absence of their beloved Filipino caregivers, are actively pushing for the regularization and return of longtime Filipino workers. They've realized that the trust, loyalty, and deep personal bonds forged with Filipino caregivers are not just hard to replace, they are, in many ways, irreplaceable. Italy is learning the hard way that while economic decisions are necessary, true human value is far more profound and enduring than any spreadsheet calculation. Mamma mia, they truly missed them. In our number 3 spot, it's the United Arab Emirates. This dazzling land of futuristic skyscrapers and opulent lifestyles once saw Filipino workers as an absolutely massive, indispensable part of its workforce. Filipinos were everywhere, building the iconic towers of Dubai, serving in the bustling hospitality sector, maintaining the luxury resorts, and providing essential services in every corner of the cities. But then, economic downturns hit, spurred by fluctuating oil prices and global financial shifts. In response, the UAE underwent periods of significant layoffs and reduced hiring quotas for foreign workers. Imagine being a skilled engineer, contributing to a monumental project, only to find your contract suddenly terminated because the economy took a dip. For thousands of Filipinos, it meant abrupt job losses, a forced return home, and the shattering of dreams built on hard work and dedication. The sheer magnitude of the impact became starkly apparent almost immediately. Many businesses across the UAE, from construction giants to sprawling hotel chains and even small family-owned enterprises, openly admit they profoundly missed the unparalleled dedication and professionalism that Filipinos brought to every single task. Construction projects slowed, the meticulous service standards in hotels began to waver, administrative offices felt the absence of efficient support staff. The UAE is a nation built on rapid development and constant innovation, a perpetual construction site pushing the boundaries of ambition. Without the consistent high-quality labor force that Filipinos provided, the engine of progress started to sputter. It was like building a magnificent high-performance sports car, but then trying to run it on low-grade fuel. It just wasn't going to hit those high speeds. The economic cost of these labor shortages began to stack up, impacting everything from project timelines to overall productivity. And now, the UAE is in full-on charm offensive mode, trying to lure back its vital Filipino workforce. Recruitment agencies across Dubai and Abu Dhabi are reporting a significant rise in demand, with local employers specifically requesting more Filipino applicants. They're like a desperate friend who ghosted you but now needs a huge favor. They're offering more competitive salaries, better benefits, and crucially, more stable, long-term contracts. The message is clear: we recognize your value, and we need your dedication to keep building our future. The UAE knows that its ambitious future, its very reputation as a global hub, starts with bringing back the very people who helped build it before. This isn't just about filling quotas, it's about re-establishing a foundational workforce. They've learned that you can have all the money in the world, but without the right hands and hearts, your grand visions remain just that, visions. Our runner-up at number 2 is Hong Kong. For generations, Hong Kong has been a magnet for Filipino workers, particularly domestic helpers who became indispensable to countless local families. They were the silent pillars of support, managing households, caring for children and the elderly, and essentially enabling Hong Kong's dual-income families to thrive. But then, a tumultuous period unfolded, marked by significant policy changes and intense political unrest. These shifts created an incredibly challenging environment for many Filipinos, especially those on specific visa categories, making it difficult for them to stay long-term, renew contracts, or even feel secure. Imagine being a vital part of a family's daily life, only to find the ground beneath your feet shaking due to external forces beyond your control. It wasn't an explicit expulsion, but the conditions essentially forced many into a position where leaving seemed like the only viable option. The absence of these beloved domestic workers has been felt more deeply by Hong Kong families than perhaps any other departure. Homes that had relied on their efficiency, warmth, and trustworthiness descended into logistical nightmares. Parents struggled to find reliable childcare, elderly residents lost their familiar, compassionate caregivers, and the intricate balance of modern family life in Hong Kong was thrown into disarray. The city, known for its high-stress environment and demanding work culture, relies heavily on the support system. Losing it created unprecedented strain, both economically and socially. It wasn't just about replacing a worker, it was about replacing a trusted, often irreplaceable member of the household. The social fabric of Hong Kong, quietly supported by these tireless individuals, began to fray. They realized that the true value of these workers wasn't just in their labor, but in the stability, peace of mind, and human connection they provided. Now, facing this profound void, Hong Kong is carefully, cautiously, but determinedly reopening pathways and offering more job stability to entice Filipinos back. They've had to confront the reality that many Filipinos truly are irreplaceable. Recruitment agencies are reporting a renewed push, and new incentives are being discussed to make Hong Kong a more attractive long-term destination. Filipino workers are especially favored for their strong communication skills, particularly their proficiency in English, and their inherent trustworthiness, qualities that are paramount in a household setting. Beyond government efforts, community groups and local families themselves are actively pushing for better rights, improved working conditions, and fairer rehiring policies for domestic helpers. It's a powerful testament that this isn't just about labor supply, it's about rebuilding essential human bonds and recognizing the irreplaceable role Filipinos play in the everyday lives of Hong Kong residents. They want their trusted hands and hearts back. And finally, the country at number 1 that deeply regrets kicking out Filipinos and is now desperately trying to woo them back? It's Singapore. This incredibly efficient and meticulously planned city-state once implemented stringent policies aimed at limiting the number of foreign workers, with a strong preference for local hires. The rationale was clear: prioritize Singaporean talent, create opportunities for citizens. A logical move on paper, right? Well, that move, while well-intentioned, hit critical sectors like a wrecking ball. Especially vulnerable were elder care, the bustling hospitality industry, and crucially, healthcare. Imagine Singapore, a global hub, suddenly realizing its world-class hospitals were short-staffed, its hotel service declining, and its elderly population lacking essential care. For many Filipinos, it meant fewer new visas, tougher renewal processes, and a feeling of being an unwanted guest despite their immense contributions. The economic and social repercussions were swift and undeniable. The carefully balanced ecosystem of Singapore's highly specialized workforce began to creak under the strain. In elder care, the shortage of compassionate and efficient Filipino caregivers became a public crisis, impacting families and pushing the limits of existing facilities. The renowned hospitality sector, a cornerstone of Singapore's tourism economy, struggled to maintain its impeccable service standards without enough experienced hands. In healthcare, the backbone of the nation's public health system, the absence of Filipino nurses and medical professionals created dangerous gaps, leading to overstressed local staff and potential compromises in patient safety. Singapore, a nation built on precision and foresight, was suddenly facing very tangible, very immediate problems directly linked to its labor policies. They realized that while local talent is paramount, the specialized skills, adaptability, and unwavering work ethic of Filipinos were not just supplemental, they were essential for their operational excellence. And so Singapore, known for its pragmatic and decisive actions, is now actively, aggressively hiring again, specifically targeting the Filipino workforce. They are launching comprehensive training programs, streamlining visa applications, and making direct appeals to the Philippine government for deployment. It's a full-court press. Job fairs and recruitment drives, once a rare sight for foreign workers, are happening again with renewed vigor, this time with a far greater focus on dignity, fairness, and clear career pathways. Crucially, Filipinos are now being offered more accessible routes to permanent employment, a significant shift designed to provide long-term stability and attract top talent. Singapore has learned perhaps the most profound lesson, that when you strive for the very best, when you demand unparalleled efficiency and dedication, you bring in the best. And time again, for crucial sectors, the best has proven to be the Filipino workforce. They want that Filipino magic back, and they're pulling out all the stops to get it. These stories, from Kuwait's backtracking to Singapore's renewed embrace, tell us one powerful truth. When you remove someone who brings not just skill, but heart and loyalty, the effects are felt for a very, very long time. These 15 countries once shut the door on Filipino workers, some through misguided policy, others through sudden, short-sighted decisions. But now, they're waking up, rubbing their eyes, and realizing the immense, irreplaceable value they lost. Filipinos weren't just workers. They were caregivers, healers, builders, teachers. They were the quiet strength behind so many homes, offices, and hospitals. And when they left, something broke. Now, those same countries are reaching out again, hoping to mend what they once took for granted. They want the kindness, the discipline, and the dedication that only Filipinos bring. It's a powerful reminder to the world, you can't replace heart. You can't replace loyalty. And that's exactly what Filipinos gave, always. So if you're an OFW, or you have family working abroad, know this, the world sees you now. It understands your worth. And for many, it's not too late to make things right. If this video opened your eyes, if you believe in the undeniable strength and spirit of Filipino workers, hit that like button, subscribe for more insights into the global impact of our kababayans, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We've got more game-changing content coming your way. In fact, if you want to keep uncovering the world and the incredible journey of Filipinos, check out these next videos: 10 Asian countries with the most US visa approvals to find out where Filipinos are truly welcomed, or 10 countries that will cancel Filipino visas in 2025, and see where opportunities might disappear next. Click now, and keep discovering the truth.